everybody. Welcome to the Good Witch podcast. This is the show where we look at the latest episode of Good Witch and tell you what we think about it. And we are very excited today to be talking about the premiere episode of season 7. So fun! It's finally here. We've been looking forward to it. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Randy Carter's here.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited to talk about this episode.
Yes, me too. There was a lot going on.
There was a lot. It seemed like this was jam-packed.
Yeah,
full of jam.
It was. So the official synopsis on IMDb says Cassie and Sam's much overdue date doesn't go as planned, and they end up stranded on an island. Joy dreams about her parents. That's better.
That is better.
So, overall, what did you think? Did you think it was a strong premiere?
I did. There was a lot going on in this episode, as you said, and overall, the thing that I found interesting, just in terms of production on this episode, is two things that we haven't seen a whole lot of before. There was a lot of location shooting. They went out to that island. They were on the boat. I mean, they've done a little bit of that before, but it seemed like not as stage bound as in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were on the stage, I don't know if they have a new photographer this year, but everything was much darker, which I actually liked. I mean, it was lit, literally, it was lit darker, which I found much more interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I bet a part of that is COVID, because they are just on all shows, not even just Good Witch, they're doing more outdoor scenes because it's safer, for everybody involved to be outside. And so I know that was the case with When Calls the Heart, and so I'm sure it's also the case with Good Witch.
Well, in that case, I mean, it ends up being an interesting thing because it certainly made it visually much more interesting than we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I felt like it kind of had a bit of a saucy streak to it that we don't always get in these shows, especially that ending. I was like, ooh.
I was blown away by that ending. Yeah. I like can't wait for next week now. I mean, which is exactly what it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
I was so surprised by that ending. Came out of nowhere, but in a great way.
Yeah. It almost felt like a CW show for a second. I don't know, just in like you're saying, the way it was shot, and just the fact that we're all dealing with all adults this season, and they've got the magic dirt, and just, I don't know, just intrigue.
Right. And also, if you remember, one of the things I said last week is I wish they would do more with George. It seems like all he ever does is bring in the luggage and fix the plumbing. And now he seems to be deeply involved in whatever these bags of dirt are. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, I am too. So it starts out with a flashback to young Joy with her parents, and she's doing art in the sand. And her dad gives her a special rock that has J on it. And so she can finish her design. And she keeps having, this is a dream that she's having, the flashback. She keeps having dreams, particularly about her dad.
Right. So, it makes me wonder, do you think that scene on the island, which she was dreaming about, was that supposed to be that she was dreaming about something that had really happened? Or is this only existing in her dream? Like, did she really visit that island with her parents? Or is that just a dream?
Well, I assumed it was a memory. I really didn't even think about the fact that it could have just been a fantasy. I mean, especially once Cassie and Sam end up on that island and they end up finding the drawing.
Right.
Or whatever you call it. I don't know what you call it. Sand art, I guess.
Right. But Joy has said in the past that her dreams have a tendency to sort of come true. And it makes me wonder if that wasn't really a memory, but was just a dream. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good point. So then we have the morning at Grey House, and everybody's there. You have Martha's there, and Abigail's there, and Joy's there, and Sam and Cassie are there. It's a crowded house.
Right, and then Dottie shows up,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, it's the whole town is decided to show
Donovan,
up, and
yeah,
Vincent.
and Vincent. My man Vincent is back, and I feel like actually maybe he's going to be around for a little while.
I think you might be right. I mean, this whole sort of subplot that he hired this private investigator to find, I mean, his real mother. I mean, presumably he was a foster child with
Mhm.
Cassie, so
Yeah,
he also doesn't know his real parents. We don't really know the backstory to that just yet, but
yeah.
he's trying to find his real mother, and then the PI did find the mother, which is like an hour away from Middleton, which is kind of
Mhm.
convenient, but still, I'm sure we're going to follow up on that storyline, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure yet where that's quite going.
I'm looking forward to it. I was happy. I mean, y'all know I love Vincent, but I thought that he seemed like a breath of fresh air. I enjoyed him again. And I'm excited that he'll just get his own story unique to him.
Yes, as long
Yeah.
as they don't try to pair him up with Stephanie, which I always
Yeah.
thought was like an odd pairing, and they
Mhm.
didn't stick with that for very often. Then
No.
I'm happy to follow through with this and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like he has a pretty good relationship with Sam and also with Cassie. So that, and even a little bit with Abigail.
Yeah,
So
everyone seems to like Vincent.
yeah.
Certainly you guys do. but
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where the mother storyline goes.
Yeah, and I feel like it just could impact a whole bunch of different characters. Like it could be an interesting element for not just Vincent, but interacting with, because we saw him with Sam, we saw him with and then with Cassie, and I don't know, I just feel like he could kind of interact with a lot of characters, be an interesting element in the show.
For sure.
And I also thought they did a very good job in this opening of just sort of dispatching all of the plots that didn't work. It just through exposition. We got rid of
Right.
Donna, we got rid of we got rid of that girl that was with Vincent, and I don't know, there was just a whole bunch of things that were just kind of
I don't
uh
remember that girl with
caught up
Vincent. Did
on.
did we see her last season
Yeah,
or 2 seasons ago
they
or whenever he
were
was on?
yeah, they were running off to go on the boat, and
Oh, right, right, right,
yeah, it was, I can't remember her name. I probably have it in my notes somewhere,
right.
but
But you're right. With a few
yeah.
lines of dialogue, all those storylines are put shunted to the side,
Yeah,
and
I mean, and I
we're
was
moving on.
especially glad to hear that Donna did not end well. 'Cause I wasn't a big fan of
Donna,
hers.
Donna. Here's the thing about Donna. She gets a little bit of a bad rap. I mean, she's an annoying character, but by design, she was kind of to try to shake up Middleton and just to show you that not everybody's like all sort of sweet and sugary and
Yeah,
what have you. But she definitely doesn't fit in with the Middleton crowd because she's a little too New York and a little too sassy and brassy for
mhm,
Middleton life for sure.
yeah. Yeah, she was a replacement for Carter, and so that was frustrating too.
Yes, yes, as we talked about, yes.
Yes, and so we also find out that Donovan's brother Daniel is coming to the engagement party, and as we suspected last time in our preview, which I'll put a link in the description if people want to listen to the preview. But we suspected that Dottie would be over planning for the wedding. And this proves to be true, even just for the engagement party, she's overdoing it.
Right, she's very similar to what Martha sort of used to be when she
Yeah.
was trying to plan things, but, yeah, and she's, like, pressuring them for a date,
Hmm.
a date for the wedding, and, Abigail and Donovan don't seem to be that interested in a quick date. They wanna take their time and do a
Yeah.
long engagement, um
Which I feel like, in Dottie's defense, I feel like long engagements are kind of unusual for older couples. I feel like I don't know, just in my experience, I feel like most older couples, they know they've found each other, they're like more confident in who they are, and they don't usually need as big of a wedding. I just feel like that's usually something that you have a 2-year engagement, or whatever, a long engagement when you're young. I don't feel like it's that common for feel like most people they
Well,
get.
maybe. I think if it's your second marriage, then
Mhm.
definitely like a long engagement. It's like, what, why?
Mhm.
But both of these people have never been married before, at least as far as
Yeah,
we know. I don't think
that's
so.
true.
And so also, I mean, they just broke this curse. I'm sure they want some time to actually be dating because
Yeah.
all for the last year they've been fighting this curse, and so haven't really been able to just be together as a couple dating,
Mhm.
um, without the pressure of the upcoming engagement.
That's true. That's a good point. That's true. I know for me, I would not want a long engagement. I just
Right.
want to get her done. I don't know. Once you made that, I would not. I don't really like all the planning. To me is very stressful. I would just kind of want to keep it really simple and just get it done and get married and
Well, and what did you think of Daniel bringing Donovan's old girlfriend to town,
yeah.
Quinn?
Yeah, that was interesting because first of all, you have this dynamic between Daniel and Donovan, very competitive, and you kind of felt like, did he bring Quinn just to get back at his brother, just to one up his brother? And but then she seemed pretty cool, Quinn.
Quinn seemed
Yeah.
very cool. In fact, she sort of realized. I think you're right that Daniel did bring her really just to rub his nose in it.
Hmm.
And Quinn caught on to that pretty quickly towards the end and was like, I'm flying back to New York or wherever she was from. Not New York. I can't remember where she said she was
Yeah,
from.
something
But
like that.
she's Washington D.C. She said she goes, I'm flying back to D.C. because she's realizes that she's there just as a ploy to get back at Donovan. My only problem with that whole sort of storyline is, she seemed to get over it quickly, but Abigail for a little bit, they were going to do that whole, oh, I'm super jealous because your ex is here. But Donovan was like, I haven't talked to this girl in, 15 years or whatever. And yeah, we were going to get married, but we were in high school. It's meaningless. And luckily,
Hmm.
Abigail seemed to get over it pretty quickly, although it did seem to like put a little wedge in between their relationship about the engagement. Towards the end, it seemed like they were still a little on the offs, no?
Yeah, because Abigail's upset that he was not announcing that they want a long engagement,
Right.
and he's trying to make peace between his mother and his brother and deal with all of that. And so, yeah, I mean that was a pretty good conflict. I feel like that's
Well,
realistic that that those kind of conflicts happen.
sure. The one thing I loved about Donovan and Abigail this episode was when they were outside at the engagement party and it looked like it was going to start to rain, like right when they were going to
Yeah.
kiss, like the thunder came, and I could see, everyone else was running inside and they're like, oh, it was like, oh no, is this the curse again? But they both were like, no, no, we don't care. They're still going to kiss. They don't care about the rain. They no
Yeah.
longer feel like there's that curse on them, and it
Yeah,
was
that
just
was a cute
rain.
moment.
Right.
And they didn't play up the melodrama too much, like there was never a "we're breaking up" or anything like that, but just "we're not communicating and we need to work on it."
Right.
And I can understand the competition between Donovan and his brother, especially because his brother seemed very insecure and difficult, frustrating.
Absolutely. You can tell that they have been, in competition with each other since they were probably very small. And knowing Dottie and her husband, I'm sure that whole household was like one where competition was encouraged. You always got to be
Right.
number one. It's got to be the sort of like mindset.
Yeah. The other cute moment I thought between Abigail and Donovan was like, look at us jogging, making smoothies together. Like that was cute.
Well, it's really interesting. I don't normally notice these things, but in that first scene, Abigail had her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and we've never seen that before. And at
Mhm.
first, I was like, "Oh, is this a new look for her this season?" And because I wasn't really sure I liked it that much, although it was fine, it was different. But then
Yeah,
you
that's
realize it's
true.
just because they were getting ready to go out jogging, and
Right.
then for the rest of the episode, it was back to the way it
Yeah.
normally was.
Look at us jogging, making smoothies. And one thing's interesting is that, so are they living together, or
I
is
don't.
he have his own separate house?
I think he must have his own separate house because technically, I mean, since he's the mayor of Blairsville, doesn't he have to live in
Oh, yeah.
Blairsville? So I don't think, and also it's Hallmark. I don't think they really move in together until they're
Well,
married.
that's what I thought, but and of course Sam and Sam and Cass were living across the street from each
Right.
other, but that's why I thought I said, "Oh, are they? That would be a step for Hallmark. I mean, that would be something different
I
if they
mean,
were."
we would have to assume that they certainly have never said that they're living together. I
Mhm.
think I don't think they are. I think maybe he just came over to go jogging, and then they were
Yeah.
at her house after the jog. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, you're probably right. We have some scenes with Cassie and Sam at this opening, where they are just not getting to spend very much time together. And Cassie says, "I miss your face," which I thought was cute.
Right.
I
Well,
miss your face.
they're so great together, but
Hmm.
I have to feel like, with Sam being a doctor and a surgeon and he's running that hospital, like even if Cassie didn't have 50 jobs or however many jobs she has now, like even if she was just at home all day running the bed and breakfast, it seems like they would hardly ever see each other because, a doctor's hours are never his own.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that it took this long for that to become an issue with them. But
I think that when you have the kids, I don't know. I feel like you spend. I mean, granted, they're just pretty still newly married.
sure.
I mean, they haven't been married that long, but then also when you have kids, they just take up so much time that you almost it's not until they're gone that maybe some of that stuff kind of as a couple kind of comes to light.
Right.
I would imagine at least. And so that might be part of it, but
I,
yeah, the
I'm curious how long they're going to continue that storyline, or if they
mhm.
are, or if it was sort of a one-off. I mean, essentially, it was used to get them on a boat, which got them to that island to find the
Mhm.
stone, you know, uh, whatever you want to call that, the stone art piece.
I hope they
Uh,
continue. I hope we get like you had said in the previous show. I hope we get some nice arcs for the characters. I hope that they keep. Hope this is not it, or that it's gone in an episode or two, because it would be nice to see it grow and build.
right. I mean, they just need to make an effort, obviously.
Yeah.
But where could that go dramatically? Could one of them, could Cassie decide to give up one of her businesses?
Hmm.
Could Sam decide to like cut back on his hours or something like that? It doesn't seem likely that those things would happen. But if it really becomes an issue that they don't have time together, what's the solution? It'll be interesting to see what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I know. And so then Vincent sees a picture of Joy's mom, and he that makes him think about his mom. And then Joy's thinking about her dad. And Cassie says, I hope, and Vincent says, I hope you find what you're looking for. And Cassie says, I hope you both do. So that's going to be obviously something going on with both of them searching for parents.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to remember what we had previously been told about Joy's parents. I mean, I thought we were told that they both died in a car accident, but that was also when Joy was pretending to be not a Merriwick. So, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she just said her mother died in a car accident, and that she said she sort of doesn't
Oh,
know where her
yeah.
father is. So now she's saying she just doesn't know where her father is. So we don't really know the backstory of the father. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it
Hmm.
as she tries to find him. Um, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will. So Martha's niece Claire is there. She is very pregnant. She's about ready to pop, as they say. And this was great. When he said it's like a tiny little production of Swan Lake in there.
Right.
And Martha saying that I'm no stranger to the dojo. I'm like, I need to see that. I need to see her
To
Catherine.
see Kung Fu Martha.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
know.
know. We definitely need to see it. That would be hilarious. And so she is needing to be on bed rest for some reason. And so that kind of gets this plot of Cassie gives Martha a bell, and that becomes the bane of Martha and Tom's existence.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not sure. As soon as they brought that bell out, and Martha and Tom seemed to think that, like, oh, this is going to solve the problem because she's
Yeah.
sort of screaming down to them all the time. And I was like, do you not understand how annoying that bell is going to get? Like
Yeah,
worse than her screaming,
too.
because she's going to ring it all the time. And
Yeah.
of course, that's exactly what happened. But I love that at the end, like everybody came out on top. Is Martha and Tom realized, because she made them that little truffle or whatever with the note that she left that was like, thank you for being so supportive, like I sort of know I'm a pain, but
Yeah.
and so they realized that, oh, she's not that big of a pain. But then of course the bell goes off again, and
Yeah.
and they're like annoyed. But it's family, it's what you do. And I love that they wrapped that up so everybody sort of came out looking good.
I was thinking, like, what is Cassie's motivation here? What is she trying to do? I guess help Martha to have more patience or something like that. But I'm like, that's not a very nice gift, Cassie, to give to
I know.
Martha.
But Martha seemed to think it was. I was like,
I
when
know.
they opened that gift, and Martha was like, "Oh, this is wonderful. Now we don't have to listen to her scream." And I was like, "Oh, this is not going to end well."
Yeah.
I
I'm
knew
like,
this was
that was a
going nowhere.
mean thing to do, Cassie.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But I think this is going to be a really fun plot line. I liked the dynamic between Claire and Martha. And when they have the inevitable birth scene, I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really
It's got to be. It's got to be. What would be hilarious? Because the obvious thing would be like, she's not just going to go to the hospital and give birth, because that's what normal people do. It's going to be, she's going to be stuck somewhere, going to have to give birth.
Right.
And normally, like, Sam would be there to give birth. But wouldn't it be wonderful if Martha had to deliver the baby?
Oh my gosh, that would be great.
Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be hilarious to have Martha have to deliver the baby?
And I'm happy that we're seeing Martha and Tom, because I really liked their dynamic together, and I wasn't sure if
I love Tom. I've always loved Tom. And my favorite scene with him in this episode is when he went in to because it was Martha's turn to take care of Claire in her office, and she offered him the Tinsdale on toast, and he made her leave.
Really good.
But she took the toast, and when they had left, Tom's sitting there in the chair, and people forget that he used to be the mayor. He was the mayor back at the very beginning, and he sort of sits back like he remembers. He's like, "Oh yeah," and he sort of leans back in the chair like, "I remember these days." I thought that was great. I love Tom. I wish they would use him more often, but maybe they use him enough, because all the time might be too much. But they use him just enough, and their relationship is so wonderful.
Yeah,
they love each other so much, and it's so obvious. And I love it when the two of them are together.
Me too. I really, really enjoy them together. And let's remember that the Tinsdale on toast is a tuna melt with sauerkraut.
Oh God, that's right. Oh, that's not that just sounds awful.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to eat that?
It does.
How popular of an item can that be on the bistro's menu?
I don't know.
I have a feeling Martha might be the only person who ever orders that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not that. I mean, people have pickles with their tuna fish all the time, but usually you don't have, with the tuna melt, usually you don't have pickles. But then sauerkraut, it just seems like that would be like soft on, I don't know. It just sounds
Yeah. Those tastes don't seem to go together.
No. So I thought that was a big win of this episode. They're really fun. And I
can't wait to see where they go with the baby.
Yeah,
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. So then Daniel is there, and they have kind of an uncomfortable meeting when he gets there, Donovan and Daniel, and we find out that Donovan's nickname is Corky.
Right. And I love that Abigail started calling him that. I hope they continue that.
I know,
and she just calls him Corky through the rest of the thing.
Yeah. That was because they pinned so many baseball cards to the corkboard that it fell, and he needed 5 stitches. And Abigail says, "You said you got that in a baseball accident." He's like, "It was a baseball accident."
Baseball cards. Same difference.
That was funny, I thought.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. So we get the return of Adam. And he he ate crickets and bugs, and it was the best tired I've ever been. And he has an Incan positive energy bracelet and all
Was he
kinds of
on a
things.
mission or was he on a season of Survivor? I wasn't sure where where
Exactly.
where he was gone from. Well,
That's what I was
listen,
thinking.
I it's obvious that Adam. I think I had suspected this before. I'm not sure he's in this whole season because I think he's going
Yeah.
back on his mission. He might be in this episode, maybe in one more, or this may be it. Next week, it may be like, oh, he left on his mission.
Yeah.
I'm sort of fine with that. I never liked him with Stephanie. So even if he sticks around now that him and Stephanie are like separate,
Yeah.
that's all good. That's going to allow them to bring that man that we saw in the preview.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you. And I mean, I have to wonder if people in Goodwitch listen to our podcast because we were not fans of Adam and we were such fans of Vincent. And now this season, and I feel like not that many people were that except for us. And maybe I'm wrong.
no, I think you're
And
right.
now this season, we have not that much Adam and a lot of Vincent. So I feel like someone's listening. It's very exciting.
You have more power than you know. Use it for good. Use it only for good.
If we could only use it, if we could only use it to get Catherine Bell to come on the podcast.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
That would be
if you're
wonderful.
listening, Catherine Bell. But no, I think you're right. That he talks about he's met another person and he's fallen in love. Eileen is her name.
Right.
And he likes her a lot, and he's going to go on another mission trip because I thought that he was like accepting a job. I didn't realize this was only 2 months.
Yeah, I don't know if they knew how long it was going to be. I think they didn't know, but it was never going to be full time. He was on a mission, and I remember them saying like, "How long will you be gone?" And he was like, "I don't really know." But yeah, if it was only going to be 2 months, here's the other thing: it's only been 2 months, and they were like so in love at the end of last season. They were like, it was just going to be a thing. But if he was only going to be gone for 2 months, and if he's only gone for 2 months, and he met somebody else, and now he's going back and basically abandoning Stephanie after being gone for 2 months, a little bit of a jerk, right?
Yeah.
And I realize that they've just decided to move on from this storyline, and that's the real reason. But it doesn't paint Adam in the best light.
No.
I mean, Stephanie was waiting for him. She was all because remember he texted her like, "Hopefully, I'll see you," and she's like, "What does that mean? Does he not want to see me?" And she's just been waiting and waiting for and it's only 2 months. I mean, 2 months is not nothing, but it's not that long.
No,
to
it's
be
not.
gone and then come back if you're really they were like ready to maybe get married or something. And 2 months is if they can't stand 2 months of being apart, then they definitely were not the right pairing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in Adam, his relationship history is not very, very, very good. I mean, he had that messy divorce.
Right. And Stephanie is the woman who was right by his side all through his surgery.
Yeah.
I don't know. Stephanie needs the right man. I'm very pro Stephanie. I want a good man for her. And maybe that'll be whoever shows up this season.
Yeah, I hope so too. Like she had Ben, and we will always remember Ben. Yes. But she needs more.
Well, the other interesting thing about Stephanie is it sounds like she's planning to remodel the bistro. Yes. At first, I thought they were going to do something where like she was going to give up the bistro because she kept saying like, is this my whole life? Like just the bistro every day. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? Are they going to have her like move on to do some other business or something, which would be quite a change. But it sounds like they're just going to do redecorating with Joy, redecorating the bistro. So maybe they just need a makeover of the set, which could be interesting. And we've seen that set a lot over the last 7 years. So maybe it's time for a nice remodel of the bistro. Yeah,
she says, oh, Adam's out changing lives and making a difference. And what am I doing here? And I think that's a shame because there's value in the ordinary, the everyday, that has power, and it might seem small, but it can really impact people's lives. And you don't need to be going out and going on fancy trips, or you can help people right there in your
I think
town.
that's absolutely true. But I also think what she was saying is, I mean, I understand she was saying he's doing all these wonderful trips and I'm not. but it's more just a self-reflection, like, is what I'm doing fulfilling me,
Mhm.
and maybe it sort of wasn't. So we'll see what this makeover does. But the interesting thing, I think, for what's coming up is they did this vision board. Her and Joy were doing these vision boards, and Joy's vision board was like an owl, which I'm not really sure what that means, but I find it interesting. And then sort of like a picture of an eclipse, which was kind of
That's
reddish.
true.
And
I was so focused on Stephanie's, I didn't really pay that much attention to Joy's
yeah, well, they
board.
pointed out the owl, and even Stephanie was like, "An owl? Like what is that?" And I don't know. It's a
Mhm.
wise old owl. I don't know. Is that supposed to represent wisdom? It'll be interesting to see what they
Yeah,
do with that. But
yeah.
the eclipse, the moon. I mean, we can talk about this what it means for the stones and so forth, but and the trailer for next week. But I have a feeling these eclipse and this sort of red moon is definitely involved in whatever this sand story is going to develop into.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies Podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
We also get Claire and she hates the essential oils, first of all, that Cassie gives. She can't stand it. And then she eats a grilled cheese with jelly. I have never heard of that in my life. And I was talking on Twitter. Some people were saying that it's delicious. And
Well, good for them. They can have
Yeah.
mine.
But the one that really got me is that she has the gummy worms and the clam chowder. It's like, what?
Well, I mean, I know that it's the old stereotype that pregnant women have these very odd cravings, but it is interesting that all the things that Cassie normally does, there was the oils, but also like the aromatherapy thing that Martha was trying to, I'm sure all came from Cassie, and it was all having the exact opposite effect. Like she couldn't stand the smell of the aroma, she hated the oils, and again, and she wanted like the gummy bears in the soup.
And then the bell. Yeah, nothing's working out the way that Cassie seems to be intending, which from the previews and stuff, that we thought that that's going to be a bit of a theme, is that her magic is a little off.
You know what would be interesting? If they would do a thing where if Cassie sort of loses her abilities or her magic or whatever you want to call it for a while, and she sort of has to figure out like how to navigate the life that she has without that extra ability, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to see her kind of stumble a little bit because she doesn't have that sort of innate ability to always know what the right thing to do is, and watch her stumble just a little bit. I think that could be really interesting.
I agree. I think that could be good. And we have some scenes between Stephanie and Abigail, and basically Abigail gets the lowdown on Quinn, and that they were the it couple.
Right.
And so she starts to get a little insecure. And
the thing that I took away from that is I want more Abigail Stephanie scenes. I feel like those two could be like best friends.
Yeah.
And do more, especially now that we have sort of a more softer Abigail than what we've had in the past.
Right.
I really think her and Stephanie, because they've been kind of at odds in the past. Remember, there was that whole thing where they had adjoining businesses, right? Her flower shop was next door to her catering business,
Right.
and they were like cracking the walls in between and everything. But I mean, I think those days are over, and I would love to see more of those two. I would love to see a camping
Mhm.
episode where
Ooh.
those two went camping or something like that.
Yeah, that would be really fun. Yeah, we got to see Stephanie with Joy. We got to see Stephanie with Adam. We got to see Stephanie with Abigail. And so we got to see some different pairings than what we
Right.
always see.
We did not see Stephanie with Vincent.
We did not, but we saw Vincent with most everybody else.
Right. Well, Vincent was never sort of really with Stephanie. I mean,
Yeah.
he was kind of a potential love interest, but
He was an
it
investor.
never really went anywhere.
He was just an investor in her food truck.
Mm.
That was about all that he ended up doing.
That's right. That's right.
Didn't he go on one date with her?
That's what I thought early on, because I thought that's who they were going to sort of pair her up with, and it just never went anywhere. And then you know, Adam became a thing, and then any thoughts of Vincent was over.
And so Dottie says that she knew Quinn and Donovan would never get married. And she says, I don't put a lot of stock in luck. Fate, however, that's a different story. But they had a ship name called Donna Quinn, which I thought was funny.
Oh, I must have missed that. Donna Quinn.
Donna Quinn, yeah, that was their couple name.
Oh, their ship name, right? Yeah,
Donna Quinn.
You know, again, that's just such a high school thing, right? I mean, they have to understand that was, you know, they're supposed to be, I guess, 15 years out of high school. So it is interesting, that line about I don't believe in luck, but fate is something else. That's interesting coming from Dottie, because I think she feels like she manipulates fate. Like if she doesn't believe in luck, like fate is something that she manufactures, or at least certainly tries to in the past.
Yeah. And so Abigail and Donovan are talking, and this is, now I'm bent out of shape because you're bent out of shape. And he makes a list of every girl he's dated, which was like 4.
Yeah, it was like 4. And I was like, what, you know, he's supposed to be what, like 35-ish. I mean, any 35-year-old man that's only dated 4 women in his entire life. I mean, I guess I assume that means actual, like, real relationships, but I mean, that's not very many. And then Abigail was like, oh, I think you missed one, meaning that he didn't put her at the end, which is interesting.
Yeah, especially somebody as attractive as Donovan, it would be surprising, but some people are just shy and they don't date that much. So I guess that's, you would think that the mayor, though, would probably, maybe there's just not a lot of great options in Blairsville. Maybe.
Blairsville.
I don't know. Yeah, Blairsville.
Yeah, maybe not.
So, so Sam and Cassie go on Vincent's boat. Well, first Sam and Vincent gives Sam the tour of his boat.
Right.
And it was the Nightingale, right? Nightingale.
It was the Nightingale.
Nightingale. And so then Sam and Cassie go on Vincent's boat, and they talk about that they need to spend more time together. They need to see each other more. And I liked the fact that it was a problem, but it wasn't like, oh, we're going to break up. This is I don't know. Like, I felt like it's always refreshing in shows when marriage is allowed to have conflict and it not be like the end of the world.
Right. I mean, they never once were like, oh my gosh, this is such a huge problem that it could be the end of us. It was, this is a problem. We both recognize it's a problem, and we have to A, find solutions, and B, work on those solutions to make sure that we see more of each other. I mean, but they were both extraordinarily adult about it, which is refreshing sometimes. You know, nobody was trying to be like, why do you have to have so many jobs? Why can't you spend more time with me? They both realize they're very active adults. They both have a lot going on, and they need to work on seeing more of each other, to make that marriage work.
Yeah. And Cassie says, I make use of every hour I spend with you. And he says, a little cheesy, but I'll allow it. So
I feel the same way. That's a little cheesy, but I'll allow it. I thought that was very sweet. Those two are so great together. They have such great chemistry, those two actors.
They really do.
You totally believe them as a couple. So I think that's great.
So they get shipwrecked on this island, and luckily they're able to get help pretty quickly, but they have their lunch, and then Cassie hears a call. This is, I said, it's like Frozen 2 all over again.
Yeah, there's some weird like
Oh,
siren call or
no.
something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Cassie finds Joy's sand art from the beginning of the episode.
Right. And now can we tell what kind of like design that's supposed to be? It looked a little unclear to me. It was sort of like a circle with like a almost like a peace sign kind of a thing. I mean,
Yeah,
but it's not
or
a peace
like I
sign,
thought
but
of it like a dream catcher kind of, maybe. It looked a little.
right.
So I don't know if they'll. I'm sure we're going to find out more about that.
Right. Well, because that leads us to the bags of sand.
Mm-hmm. And Vincent, the investigator, finds his mother. So so we're going to find about that coming up. And
yeah, I feel like that's going to be more of a season long arc, where we find out more about the mother and what that might ultimately lead to. Who can say? But I like that. I like that concept a lot. I like that storyline a lot, or the potential of that storyline. So I'm excited to see what that brings.
Yeah, me too. And Vincent says Cassie gives much better advice, and it comes with cinnamon rolls. And Sam says that's part of the reason I married her.
Oh, Sam, that's the only reason. The cinnamon rolls.
Well, this is the thing. Whenever they're baking at Grey House, it seems like it's not only does it look yummy, but they're always giant. I swear they're always like these huge muffins or these giant cinnamon rolls.
Do you remember last season when Donna came in and the joke was that it was like book club and she was going to take a couple of muffins like that they'd put out for book club and she's supposed to be obnoxiously taking their food. And again, there are these huge muffins, like one muffin is like 2 meals and she takes like 3 of them. I was like, this is the size of your entire body. There's no way you'll consume all these muffins.
I remember when Grace was making all those muffins in the time travel whatever episode.
Right.
I'm like, no human beings can eat all of those giant muffins.
But also, whenever Cassie's cooking or doing anything, like they even said at the beginning, like, "Oh, I didn't know there was any guests." And Joy was like, "Oh, what about me?" And he's like, "Oh, you're not a guest, you're family." But so there's no other guests currently in Grey House other than the people that we know. And yet she makes a meal for like 15 people. Like, how much food goes to waste at this place? I mean, it's always a huge thing. There's never just like, oh, for breakfast we have like some oranges and bananas and maybe a little oatmeal. It's always like this huge layout.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But they comment on it. They comment on it, so like they're aware that she was, oh, I just went overboard. I can't ever seem to stop myself from making these huge meals.
So then we get to the engagement party. And I thought I agreed that I really liked that moment, the kiss in the rain. That was very sweet. And then we have Quinn and Abigail talking, and then Quinn breaks up with Daniel. And that, I feel like, I hope we don't only get to see Quinn there. I hope we get to see more of her because I liked her. She was fun.
I liked her a lot. I suspect we might not see much more of her because she was sort of just designed. But I thought that actress was really good, and I liked the character a lot.
I did too.
I mean, maybe she'll show back up again. The problem is, if she does show back up, is she going to be anything more than just a thing to drive a wedge between Abigail and Donovan? I certainly don't want a storyline where it's like Quinn comes back without Daniel and is trying to get Donovan back or something along those lines. It doesn't seem like that's what they would do. But
it could be something like maybe Abigail playing matchmaker for Quinn. Hey, that could be fun.
Oh, that could be fun. I hear Vincent needs a woman.
Yes. Yes. There we go. That would be really good. This is an extreme nitpick. I didn't love Abigail's dress at the engagement party. Was
that the gold? It was kind of a gold dress?
It was like a red dress
with
like a pleating on it.
Yes.
And I just didn't care for it. Just didn't like it. I mean, Sarah Powers is beautiful, obviously. It doesn't matter what she's wearing. But I just didn't like the dress. It wasn't my taste.
Well, they do always, I mean, even when Cassie's just cooking in the kitchen, it's like she dresses with like like she's going out to a,
Yeah, she looked
like a
good.
cocktail party. They
Yeah.
always seem to put on like these very sort of fancy clothes, which is part of the,
Mhm.
the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did notice that earlier. I think there was a gold. Abigail was wearing like this gold.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was a dress or if it was just like this gold shirt, and I thought that was actually quite nice, and that's why I thought you were thinking
Mhm.
about the gold one.
Yeah.
But the red dress, I don't really remember it that well, but yeah, there are sometimes Cassie's been in a few dresses over a few seasons that have made me turn my head a little bit and go, "What are they thinking?" They can't all be home runs.
Right. That's true. That's very true. Uh, and I liked when that Martha and Tom kept saying, "Good gravy, good gravy, good gravy." She's here.
Those two are so great together. As I said, I just like you can see them like growing old together, and just they will never be apart.
Yeah.
There has to be a certain type of personality of Tom to have to sort of put up with Martha. She can be a handful, but she always means well. She always, even when sometimes she strays off the path, she always comes back and would never really do anything
Yeah.
spiteful.
But I just also I love when she said we've become like Pavlov's dogs.
It's
That was
true.
good. That was very, very good.
Oh,
And then we have Dottie giving them Ronaldo the wedding planner for their engagement present. And that's when they finally have to announce that they're going to have a long engagement. And
right. And the strange thing to me is the sort of disagreement between Abigail and Donovan was never about the long engagement. They both seemed to be on the same page about that.
It was telling their family.
It was telling Dottie, but Abigail sort of needs to understand, like, she's met Dottie. Telling her the sort of cold, hard truth can't always be the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
Especially if she's your mother.
Yeah, it would almost make more sense for Abigail to tell Dottie. Just to be the one to be. Sometimes in a relationship, you have to kind of be the bad one, with other. I remember my mom used to say that to me, that if I needed an excuse if there was a party or something, my mom would say, I have no problem being the bad one. You can blame it on me.
Right.
That's true.
But the problem is, if Donovan couldn't really blame it on Abigail, because if he did, we already know that for the longest time, Dottie was very against their engagement, and has just recently sort of come around to accepting it. And I don't know that it would take much for her to tilt back to, well, then you should, what about that Quinn? I always liked Quinn, but then she said she always knew they would never be together.
Would you want a long engagement if you were to get married?
I've been married, and I did not have a long engagement.
Yeah.
I mean, long. I mean, depends what you mean by long.
Yeah.
My
I would not.
My
Absolutely
sister
not.
has a long engagement. She's been engaged now for, I want to say 2 years, and
wow.
they don't really have a date planned even now. And they're just happy to be engaged.
Yeah.
So
everybody's different. So
yeah, some people do it. My feeling was, myself, if I were to get married again, I don't know that I would want a long engagement. I don't know. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
If you want to get married, it's time to do it.
That's my personality too. I'd just be like, let's get her done.
Right.
But everyone's different, and there's no wrong. It's not wrong. It's just different. But yeah, so then Claire makes the tiramisu like we talked about. And Tiny Tinsdale is going to be the luckiest grandbaby in the world.
Do they have a name? Do they have a name for baby Tinsdale yet?
They didn't say it. I don't believe. They just said Tiny Tinsdale.
They're going to name it Martha.
Oh,
don't you think?
Did they say it was a girl?
Yes, it's definitely. Remember, because when she was on last season, she came and she announced it was a girl, and Martha was like, "Why would you want to know? Don't you want to keep it a secret?" Remember when her and Claire were very opposite of each other about how to deal with the baby? She was like, "Oh, we want to know," and Martha was like, "I didn't know until I actually had them. We wanted to be surprised." But no, it's definitely a little girl.
Yeah, that would be so cute. I would love that. I hope they do that. I really do. So
I think
then Sam and Cassie have a talk, and they broke their pinky swear to each other. And he says, we need to try a lot harder. And then you have the ending, like we talked about, with Cassie, Joy, and Abigail. They're they're emptying the dirt out of their bags to make they kind of make the beach art sort of. And then
Right. I mean, just pour it out and it turns into the beach art. So obviously this is like
Yeah.
supernatural sand of some kind.
Supernatural sand.
It is.
Yeah, no, it's true. It just sounds funny. But then George, he comes up and he says, "I think it's time we had a talk." And
oh my gosh, I was so stunned by that.
I know.
And I was like so happy because early on he was like, "Oh, I'm going fishing," and then George was gone for the whole episode, and I thought, there you go, there's a whole episode without a minute, and then he shows up at the end, and then with the preview of next week, it's like, how is he involved in this that even Cassie doesn't know and none of the Merowicks know, but he
remember that George is not related to Cassie at all in any way.
That's right.
So George and not related to Grace either. So George is was the father of the I guess
he was the father of Jake's first wife.
That's right. So he's related to Lori and Brandon.
Right.
He's not. He has no connection to Grace or to Cassie, but he just kind of hanged around because we liked his character, I guess.
Well, I think
maybe he hanged around because maybe he's a Merriwick. We've never had a male Merriwick.
Well, it's true. Well, I think he hung around because when Grace was growing up, he was in the household because Brandon and Lori were still there. So, she grew up with him as grandpa, even though there's no blood there. I mean, they were all family. So he sticks around. But it is really, he's never been involved in any of the sort of supernatural Merriwick storylines at all. And so I'm fascinated to see what could it possibly be.
Yeah.
That was a big shocker for me.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I'm super excited about what might come next.
Me too. I feel like it could be really fun, and maybe it's like slightly why he's kind of hung around all this time is because he wants to be close to the Merowicks for some reason. That would be really great. I think great idea.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, could he be related to like Joy's side of the family? Could he be like a second cousin or somebody's uncle on a different side of the family? I mean, it's a little strange, but
he could be. Let's see. Figure. He could be like what would he be? He's not old enough to be a like child of Elizabeth Merriwick, right? He could be a grandchild.
Yeah, he would be his I mean, he could be like, could he be Joy's mom, Julia, who we saw in the flashback there at the beach? Could he be like her father or her uncle or something? That would be the generation he would be.
Yeah.
He would be like, like Joy's grandfather or great uncle or something, or however you would send that. But I mean, it also could, who knows? Who knows? Because all up until this time, George has always been aware of the Merriwick stuff, and he's been in this town forever. He knew, didn't he know somebody who knew Elizabeth Merriwick? He's been around for a long time in this town, so he knows, but he's never been this deeply involved. We presume deeply involved. Obviously he's the one who snuck in. Remember, I was saying it has to be supernatural because somebody's breaking into their houses to drop off the sand. But it's George. He has keys to everything. He's going in and dropping off the sand in people's places.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
It was a great moment. It was very smart. I like I said, I thought this was a really fun episode, and that was just kind of the cherry on top of the sundae.
I think this season is looking very different from our previous seasons. Both literally the look of it, but also like the storylines and everything. I think it's a little edgier than we've seen before. It's a little darker, but it still has all the characters that we love and all the elements that we love. And I think this is a great start to what could be a great season.
Yeah, I agree. Very much so. Well, let us know if you're listening what you think of the premiere. Are you excited about it like we are? What did you think? Did we miss anything? Let us know in the comment section or on Twitter. We would love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, you can make sure you're following the podcast on Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. We have our patron group, which has tons of fun. We just had our watch along for the month, and we got to talk to Lacey Chabert and director Michael Damian about the Christmas waltz, and that was epic. And we have some fun ones coming up this summer. So it's only $2 a month to join. You can be part of our patron group where we talk Good Witch and all the other shows and have a great time. So please check out the Patreon. We also have our merch store, which has Good Witch inspired merch in there. So check that out as well. All those links are in the description. And thanks so much, Randy. This was great. And we will talk again in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.